Have you ever felt like giving up? Like the world is too heavy, and no matter how hard you try, things just don't work out? If you have, you're not alone. Everyone, at some point in life, faces that feeling, the moment when it seems easier to quit than to keep going. But today, my friend, I want to share with you a story that will remind you that giving up is never the answer. This is the story of a young man named Daniel. He wasn't famous, rich, or especially lucky. In fact, he was quite the opposite. Daniel grew up in a small town where life wasn't easy. His parents worked hard just to pay the bills. From a young age, Daniel dreamed of becoming a teacher, someone who could inspire others and make a difference. But life had other plans. When Daniel was 15, his father lost his job. The family had little money, and Daniel had to start working after school to help. He sold newspapers in the mornings and helped in a small store in the evenings. Every day, he came home tired, but he never stopped studying. His dream to become a teacher was still alive, small but bright, like a candle in a storm. Now, let's pause for a moment and repeat this phrase. Never give up, even when life gets hard. Say it slowly with me. Never give up, even when life gets hard. Good. Try one more time, louder this time, with confidence. When Daniel finished high school, he wanted to go to university. But when he checked the cost of tuition, his heart sank. It was far more than he could afford. Many of his friends gave up on their dreams and started working full-time. They told Daniel, "It's impossible. Just find a job and forget about school." Have you ever had someone tell you that your dream is impossible? How did it make you feel? For Daniel, those words hurt deeply. But instead of letting them stop him, he decided to fight harder. He applied for every scholarship he could find, worked double shifts, and studied late at night. Many times, he fell asleep with his head on his books. Some nights, he cried silently, asking himself, "Why does it have to be so hard?" Repeat this sentence after me. It's okay to be tired, but it's not okay to give up. Once again, it's okay to be tired, but it's not okay to give up. Finally, after months of waiting, Daniel received a letter. It was from a university, and it said he had won a scholarship. It didn't cover everything, but it was enough to give him hope. He smiled for the first time in weeks. His dream wasn't dead. It was alive and growing stronger. But success didn't come easily. At university, Daniel struggled with his classes. Many students were smarter and came from better schools. He felt lost and afraid. Sometimes he thought about quitting, but whenever he felt weak, he remembered his mother's words, "Son, if you give up, you'll never know how close you were to success." Let's practice saying that. If you give up, you'll never know how close you were to success. That's a beautiful truth, isn't it? Sometimes, when we stop trying, we're just one step away from victory. One evening, while studying in the library, Daniel overheard two students laughing. One of them said, "That poor boy doesn't belong here. He'll fail for sure." Their words hit him like a knife. But instead of crying, Daniel looked up and whispered to himself, "Watch me. I'll show you what I can do." Have you ever been underestimated when someone thought you couldn't do something? If yes, remember this. You don't have to prove them wrong. You just have to prove yourself right. Daniel worked harder than ever. He studied every night until midnight. He asked questions, took notes, and practiced English by listening to stories, just like you're doing now. He spoke to himself in front of the mirror, repeating sentences, improving his confidence. One word at a time. Let's try this together. Repeat after me. I am stronger than my problems. I am capable of learning anything. I will never give up on myself. Doesn't that feel powerful? Words are energy. The more you speak positively, the more your life starts to change. Months passed, and slowly, Daniel began to improve. His grades went up. His teachers noticed his effort. One professor even told him, "Daniel, you have a bright future. Keep believing in yourself." Those words gave him fuel to keep going. But just when everything seemed to be going well, tragedy struck. His mother fell seriously ill. Daniel had to return home to take care of her. He missed classes, lost focus, and his scholarship was at risk. It felt like his whole world was falling apart. One night, sitting beside his mother's bed, he whispered, "Mom, I don't know what to do. Maybe I should stop studying." She smiled weakly and said, "My son, promise me one thing, never give up. Even if I'm not here, promise me you'll finish what you started." Tears filled Daniel's eyes. He nodded. That night, he made a promise that would guide him for the rest of his life. After his mother passed away, Daniel was heartbroken, but he kept his promise. He returned to university and worked harder than ever before. He studied through pain, through loneliness, through exhaustion. And finally, after years of struggle, he graduated, not just as a student, but as a symbol of resilience. Let's say this together. Resilience means never giving up, no matter what happens. Repeat again. Resilience means never giving up, no matter what happens. Daniel became a teacher, the very dream he had as a child. On his first day of teaching, he looked at his students and said, "If I can stand here today, you can reach your dreams too. Never let failure stop you. Let it teach you." You see, Daniel's story is not just about success. It's about courage, patience, and faith. It's about believing in yourself when no one else does. So, dear listener, remember this. No matter how dark the night seems, the sun will rise again. You just have to hold on a little longer. Don't give up. You are stronger than you think. Let's finish this section with 3 affirmations. Say them out loud with me. I believe in myself. I will keep trying. I will never give up. Beautiful. You did great. Keep practicing these sentences. Repeat them every morning, and watch your confidence grow. After graduation, Daniel thought life would finally become easier, but reality had other plans. Finding a job as a teacher wasn't as simple as he had imagined. He sent applications to many schools, wrote letters, and waited for weeks. But every reply said the same thing. "We're sorry, but we've chosen another candidate." At first, he felt disappointed. Then, after the 10th rejection, he felt broken. He started to ask himself, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe this dream isn't meant for me. Have you ever felt that way? When you try again and again, but nothing seems to work? Repeat this with me. I may fail many times, but I am not a failure. Once more, slowly. I may fail many times, but I am not a failure. Daniel remembered something his mother used to say, when doors close, look for a window. So instead of giving up, he decided to change his plan. He started giving small lessons to children in his neighborhood, teaching them English after school. At first, only 2 students came, then 5, then 10. He didn't earn much money, but he felt alive. He was doing what he loved, teaching. One day, a mother of one of his students said, "Daniel, my son's English has improved so much. You're a wonderful teacher." That simple compliment touched his heart. It reminded him that success isn't about fame or money. It's about making a difference. Let's practice saying this. Success is not about money. It's about making a difference. Good. One more time. Success is not about money. It's about making a difference. As time passed, Daniel's small home classes became popular. Parents told other parents, and soon his living room was full of students. He couldn't believe it. The boy who once studied under a streetlight was now teaching others to believe in themselves. But just when life seemed stable, another challenge appeared. The small room where he taught started to leak during heavy rain. Water dripped from the ceiling, and sometimes the electricity would go out. The children laughed, but Daniel felt frustrated. He thought, how can I teach like this? maybe I should stop. But then he remembered his mother's words again, never give up. So instead of stopping, he found creative ways to continue. He borrowed umbrellas for the children to sit under, taught them by candlelight when the power failed, and even used his own phone flashlight to write on the board. His students loved it. They said, "Sir, you make learning fun, even in the dark." Repeat after me. When life gives you problems, find solutions. Again, when life gives you problems, find solutions. Daniel smiled and said to his students, "If you can learn English in the rain, you can do anything in life." One evening, after finishing a class, Daniel sat alone, looking at his old notebooks. He found one page where he had written years ago, "My dream is to inspire others through teaching." Tears filled his eyes as he realized that he was already living that dream, just not in the way he had imagined. You see, sometimes we think success has to look a certain way, a big job, a big salary, a fancy title. But true success is different. True success is when you wake up and feel proud of what you do, even if no one else sees it. Let's repeat that together. True success is being proud of what I do. One more time. True success is being proud of what I do. After a few years, Daniel saved enough money to rent a small classroom in town. He painted the walls bright blue and called it Hope English Center. On the first day, he stood at the door, nervous but happy. The sign outside wasn't perfect. Some letters were uneven, but it was his. It was a symbol of everything he had fought for. As students began arriving, Daniel welcomed them with a smile. "Welcome to Hope English Center," he said. "Here, we don't just learn English, we learn how to believe in ourselves." The students clapped, and the room filled with energy and laughter. Have you ever noticed that when you help others, you also help yourself? Teaching gave Daniel more than money. It gave him purpose. Every time he saw a student improve, he felt a little stronger, a little more alive. One day, a shy girl named Sarah joined his class. She barely spoke and often looked down. Daniel noticed her fear and said gently, "Sarah, would you like to read this sentence?" She shook her head and whispered, "I can't." But Daniel smiled and said, "You can. Let's do it together." He read the sentence slowly, "I believe in myself." Then he asked the class to repeat it. "I believe in myself." Sarah looked around, then softly joined in, "I believe in myself." The class clapped, and Daniel said, "See, you did it." That moment changed something inside her. Week after week, she grew more confident. At the end of the course, she stood in front of the whole class and said, "Before I came here, I was afraid to speak. But now, I'm not afraid anymore." Everyone cheered, and Daniel felt proud tears in his eyes. He realized something important. When you don't give up, you don't just change your life, you inspire others to change theirs too. Repeat this sentence. When I don't give up, I inspire others too. Again, when I don't give up, I inspire others too. Daniel's classes became so successful that one local newspaper wrote about him, "The man who teaches with hope." When he read that headline, he smiled. He remembered his father, his mother, the dark nights of studying, the rain, the pain, and he thought it was all worth it. But even then, Daniel didn't stop growing. He began learning new teaching methods, reading books, and even improving his own English pronunciation. He told his students, "Learning never ends. Every day, you can become better than yesterday." So, my friend, if you ever feel stuck, remember Daniel's journey. He didn't wait for perfect conditions. He started small, made mistakes, and learned along the way. You can do the same. Let's practice these powerful affirmations together. I will start where I am. I will do what I can. I will never give up. Good job. You're doing great. Learning English and life itself is not a race. It's a journey. Every word you learn, every sentence you speak, every mistake you correct, it all brings you one step closer to your goal. Before we close this section, I want you to remember a simple truth. The people who never give up don't have easier lives. They just have stronger hearts. And you, my friend, have that heart to keep going. Keep believing. You're already on your way. Years passed, and Daniel's English Center grew. He started with a few students, but soon there were hundreds. The one small room turned into a bright, welcoming place full of laughter, energy, and hope. His students came from all walks of life: children, teenagers, adults, even people who had failed before, but still wanted to try again. Daniel always told them, "You are never too old to learn, and it's never too late to start." Let's say that together. You are never too old to learn, and it's never too late to start. That's right. Every new day is a new chance to grow. One afternoon, while Daniel was teaching a group of beginners, he noticed an older man sitting quietly in the back. The man looked nervous, holding a small notebook in his rough, tired hands. After class, Daniel approached him and said kindly, "Hello, sir. How was the lesson?" The man smiled shyly and replied, "It was good, but I'm slow. I can't remember words." Easily, Daniel placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Don't worry. Learning is not about speed. It's about courage. And you have that." The man's name was Mr. Ahmed. He was 55 years old and worked as a security guard. He told Daniel that he had always dreamed of learning English so he could speak confidently to tourists who visited his city. But for many years, he believed it was too late. Then one day, he saw Daniel's school sign, Hope English Center, and something inside him whispered, "Try again." Daniel admired his bravery and told the class the next day, "Everyone, let's give a round of applause to Mr. Ahmed. He's proof that it's never too late to follow your dreams." The students clapped warmly, and Mr. Ahmed smiled for the first time in a long while. Have you ever given up on something because you thought it was too late? Think again. Life doesn't have an age limit for dreams. Repeat this sentence after me. It's never too late to start again. Once more, it's never too late to start again. Week by week, Mr. Ahmed improved. He practiced every day after work, repeating English phrases while walking to his job. Sometimes, other guards laughed at him, but he didn't care. He told them, "I'm learning, and that makes me proud." Daniel often reminded his students, "Don't compare your progress with others. Compare it with who you were yesterday." Let's repeat that. Don't compare your progress with others. Compare it with who you were yesterday. That's how real growth happens, step by step, word by word. One day, Daniel received a message from a woman named Lena. She wrote, "Sir, I saw your students' videos online. I live in another city, but I really want to learn from you. Can you teach me online?" Daniel had never taught online before. He didn't have the best equipment or internet connection. But instead of saying no, he said, "Yes, let's try." He learned how to use a laptop camera, practiced speaking clearly, and started giving online lessons. It wasn't easy. Sometimes the screen froze. Sometimes the sound disappeared, but he didn't give up. Slowly, more students joined. His little school in one town began to reach people in many countries. Repeat this with me. When I try something new, I grow again. When I try something new, I grow. Through online teaching, Daniel met people from all around the world, from India, Egypt, Brazil, and Japan. Some were shy, some were confident, some were afraid to speak. But all had one thing in common, the desire to learn. One evening, a student named Maria from Brazil shared her story. She said, "Daniel, I used to feel embarrassed speaking English. People laughed at my accent, but after your classes, I don't feel ashamed anymore. I feel proud." Daniel smiled and said, "Maria, your accent tells your story. It's a part of who you are. Never hide it. Embrace it." Let's practice that together. My accent is my story. One more time. My accent is my story. That's a powerful sentence, isn't it? Many learners feel afraid to speak because they don't sound like native speakers. But remember this, English is not about sounding perfect. It's about expressing yourself confidently. Daniel began to record short, motivational videos for his students, simple English messages about life, success, and hope. He spoke slowly, clearly, and from the heart. To his surprise, those videos went viral. People from different countries started sending him messages like, "Your words helped me during a hard time," or "I wanted to quit, but your video gave me strength." He couldn't believe it. The same boy who once studied in the dark was now inspiring people across the world in English. One day a young student messaged him and said, "Sir, you always tell us not to give up, but did you ever want to give up yourself?" Daniel smiled sadly and replied, "Yes, many times. But every time I wanted to quit, I remembered why I started." Let's say that together. Every time I want to quit, I remember why I started. That's an important lesson. When things get hard, don't focus on the pain, focus on the purpose. Sometimes, Daniel would tell his class stories from his past, the nights of working at the store, the days he felt lost, the promise he made to his mother. His students listened quietly, their eyes full of respect. One of them said, "Sir, you never gave up because you had a reason. I want to find my reason too." That's something we can all learn from. Everyone needs a why. When your reason is strong enough, no challenge can stop you. So, think for a moment. Why are you learning English? Is it to get a better job? To travel? To connect with others? Or maybe, to grow as a person? Whatever your reason is, hold on to it. That's your fuel. Let's repeat together. My reason gives me strength. One more time. My reason gives me strength. As the years went on, Daniel became known not just as a teacher, but as a mentor, someone who believed in people even when they didn't believe in themselves. Even after achieving so much, Daniel's journey didn't stop. Life, as it always does, continued to test him. One year, a big storm hit his town. Heavy rain flooded the streets, and many small businesses, including his English center, were badly damaged. The blue walls he had painted with love were covered in mud. The books, chairs, and whiteboard, all ruined. When Daniel walked into the empty, wet classroom, he felt a sharp pain in his heart. For a moment, he just stood there, silent. The room that once echoed with laughter and learning was now filled with the smell of dampness and broken dreams. He sat on a wet chair, closed his eyes, and whispered, "Not again. I worked so hard. Why does this keep happening?" Maybe you've had moments like that too, when you did everything right, but life still knocked you down. It hurts, doesn't it? But here's something Daniel remembered. Every fall is a chance to rise again. Let's say that together. Every fall is a chance to rise again. Once more, every fall is a chance to rise again. Daniel spent the next few days helping clean up the neighborhood. He helped his students' families, carried boxes, and gave food to those who needed it. He didn't even think about his own school at first. He said, "Others have lost more than I have. I'll rebuild when it's time." His kindness inspired many people. One of his students made a small video about him and posted it online. The video showed Daniel helping people with a smile, saying, "We'll rebuild, step by step." Within days, that video went viral. Hundreds of people commented, "What a teacher, what a heart." Soon, donations started coming in. People sent books, chairs, and money to help Daniel rebuild his school. One message said, "Your story touched my heart. Please, don't give up. We believe in you." When Daniel saw that, tears rolled down his cheeks. He realized that the hope he had given others was now coming back to him. Repeat after me. When I give hope, hope comes back to me. Good. Again, when I give hope, hope comes back to me. With the help of his community, Daniel rebuilt Hope English Center. This time, it was bigger and stronger. He painted one big sentence on the wall: "Never give up, hope always wins." He told his students, when life breaks something, it gives you the chance to build something even better. Let's practice that. When life breaks something, I can build something better. Soon, Daniel started a program for poor children who couldn't afford education. He said, "I know what it's like to struggle. Everyone deserves a chance." He taught them for free on weekends, bringing snacks and games to make learning fun. The children called him Teacher Dan, and they adored him. One little boy, Amir, said to him, "Teacher Dan, I want to be like you when I grow up." Daniel smiled and said, "Then never give up on learning, Amir. No matter what happens, keep studying." Amir nodded and repeated softly, "Never give up." Those words, "never give up," became the heart of Daniel's teaching. Every lesson ended with them. His students would say together, "We will never give up." And Daniel would answer, "Because hope always wins." Let's try that together now. You say, "We will never give up." And I say, "Because hope always wins." Beautiful. One day, Daniel was invited to speak at an international teachers conference. It was his first time traveling abroad. He was nervous, but excited. When he stood on stage, looking at hundreds of teachers from different countries, he took a deep breath and began, "Years ago, I was just a poor student with a dream. I had no money, no power, and no connections, only hope. Today, I stand here not because I'm special, but because I refused to give up." The audience listened quietly. Some smiled. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Daniel continued, "Teaching is not just about grammar or vocabulary. It's about teaching courage. The courage to try again, even after failure." He paused and asked, "How many of you have ever wanted to give up?" Slowly, many hands went up. Daniel smiled and said, "Then you understand. But look, you didn't give up. That's why you're here. That's the real victory." Let's repeat that line. Not giving up is the real victory. Once more, not giving up is the real victory. After his speech, people from around the world came to thank him. One teacher from Japan said, "You reminded me why I started teaching in the first place." Another from Kenya said, "Your story gives me strength to keep helping my students." Daniel realized something powerful. His story wasn't just his own anymore. It belonged to everyone who had ever fallen and stood up again. When he returned home, he continued teaching with even more passion. He started a special Never Give Up week at his school. During that week, students shared their own stories about failing exams, losing jobs, facing fears, and finding courage again. Each story ended with the same message: "I didn't give up." One girl, Fatima, shared how she failed her English exam 3 times. The class gasped. But then, she smiled and said, "On the 4th try, I passed, because I didn't quit." Everyone clapped loudly, and Daniel said, "Fatima, you are a true example of courage. Repeat after me. Failure is not the end. It's the beginning of success." Once again, failure is not the end. It's the beginning of success. At the end of that week, Daniel stood in front of his students and said, "You all inspire me. Each of you is a story of hope. Remember this: falling down is not failing. Staying down is. So get up every single time." You see, Daniel's journey reminds us of a simple truth. Life will test you again and again, but each test makes you stronger. So when you face problems in English, in work, in life, don't say, "I can't." Say, "I'll try again." Let's practice. I'll try again. Good. Again, louder. I'll try again. Because that's the spirit that turns ordinary people into extraordinary ones before ending the day. Daniel always wrote in his journal. One night, he wrote, "I've learned that dreams don't come true because of luck. They come true because of patience, hard work, and faith." He closed his journal and whispered, "Thank you, life, for every challenge, because each one made me stronger." Let's repeat that final line for this section. Every challenge makes me stronger. One more time. Every challenge makes me stronger. Yes, you're doing beautifully. Remember, English learning, like life, is not about perfection. It's about persistence. Keep practicing. Keep believing. Keep moving forward. Time passed, and Daniel's life continued to blossom. His school became a symbol of hope in the community, a place where people came not only to learn English but also to learn courage, confidence, and kindness. Students from other cities visited his center just to hear him speak. They said, "Teacher Daniel, you make us believe that anything is possible." Daniel always smiled and replied, "Anything is possible when you never give up." But even though his school was thriving, Daniel knew that challenges never completely disappear. One day, he received sad news. His father had fallen ill. Daniel had taken care of his mother years ago, and now it was time to care for his father. Without hesitation, he paused his travels and stayed by his father's side. Every evening, he sat beside his father's bed, reading him short stories, the same ones he used to study when he was a boy. His father smiled weakly and said, "You made me proud, son. You became the man I hoped you'd be." Daniel replied softly, "Dad, everything I learned came from watching you work hard. You never gave up, and neither did I. Let's say that together. I learned strength from those who never gave up. Again, I learned strength from those who never gave up." His father passed away peacefully a few months later, holding Daniel's hand. It was painful, but Daniel chose not to let grief break him. Instead, he used it as fuel to keep going, to honor his parents' sacrifices by helping others find hope. He told his students, "Life is short. We don't control how long we live, but we do control how deeply we live. Don't waste your time doubting yourself. Believe, try, grow." Repeat after me. I choose to believe in myself. I choose to keep trying. I choose to grow every day. Good. One morning, Daniel received a letter from a university abroad. They had seen his work online and wanted him to come as a guest lecturer. At first, he couldn't believe it. The boy who once studied under a streetlight was now being invited to teach at a university in another country. He smiled and whispered, "Mom, Dad, we did it." Traveling abroad was a new adventure. He met teachers, learners, and people from different cultures. Everyone was curious about his story. They asked, "How did you stay motivated through so many struggles?" Daniel always gave the same answer. "I never focused on what I lost. I focused on what I could still give." Let's say that. I don't focus on what I lost. I focus on what I can give. That attitude of giving, not giving up, became his greatest strength at one university. He shared 3 golden lessons that changed his life. First, failure is feedback, not a reason to quit. Every time you fail, life is teaching you something valuable. Second, dreams take time. Patience is not waiting. It's working hard while you wait. And third, hope is stronger than fear. When you choose hope, you already win half the battle. Let's repeat these together slowly. Failure is feedback. Dreams take time. Hope is stronger than fear. Beautiful. Remember those? They can guide you through any challenge. After the lecture, a young student approached him and said, "Sir, I was thinking about quitting my studies because it's so hard. But after hearing you, I want to try again." Daniel smiled and said, "Good. Promise me one thing. When you feel tired, rest, but never quit."